Hello, my name is Patrick Casserly. I'm the Design Studio Coordinator at the University of Ibadan in Ibadan, Nigeria, and I work for Rice 360 Institute for Global Health Technologies. And this lecture is on building effective teams. I have identified 6 keys to building an effective team, and in this lecture, I will go through each one of the 6 keys individually. The first key to building a successful team is to develop a team charter as a team. A team charter is a document which can be revised as many times and as frequently as the team would like. In this document, the team includes what the individual roles are for each team member, what the overall team goal is, and it also identifies who the primary stakeholders are for the project. Furthermore, the team can identify how the team will operate. How will the team communicate? How frequently will the team meet? And the mere act of working together to develop the team charter in and of itself is a team building exercise. So developing a team charter is the first key ingredient to building an effective team. The second key to building an effective team is to build a culture of trust within the team. Interpersonal trust and mutual respect between team members are core components of any effective team. In 2010, researchers at Google, the technology giant, set out to identify what were the core characteristics of their most high-achieving teams within their organization. What they found was that their highest achieving teams had high levels of social sensitivity or social intelligence. Social sensitivity is the ability for individuals to perceive, understand, and respect the feelings and viewpoints of others. So on these high achieving teams, there was a culture whereby individuals within the team could feel comfortable sharing their opinions without being worried that they would be attacked, rejected, embarrassed, or punished for speaking their mind. Additionally, what the researchers found were that these high achieving teams also were characterized by having equal distribution of time taken during conversations between each member of the team. That is to say that team decision making and conversations were not dominated by one or two single individuals. Rather, each member of the team had equal time when contributing to conversations. But how do you build a culture of trust within your team? Oftentimes, trust must be developed over time, but there are ways to accelerate the building of trust within a team. First and foremost, you can share personal stories. Particularly, the stories that are most successful in building a culture of trust are those where you show vulnerability. If you describe something that you're struggling with or that is challenging to you, that humanizes you and enhances the relationships with your teammates. A second method to building a culture of trust within your team is to establish norms of communication early on. In your team charter, you can define how your team will communicate with one another. But another way to communicate effectively is to share information widely and transparently with each member of the team. In the secondary research section of your digital design notebook, that serves as a platform where you could post research that you have conducted so that everyone on the team can read and has access to that information. The next key to building an effective team is to not let conflict fester within the team. And in order to avoid conflict, there are several strategies that the team can undertake. First, when providing critical feedback, make sure that you are being critical of ideas, not people. During the design process, there are going to be a lot of ideas put forward by teammates, both good and bad. And when providing feedback on some of those bad ideas, make sure you're focusing on the idea itself and not on the character of the person who's providing that idea. There's going to be a lot of good ideas being put forth during the design process. The next strategy to avoid conflict is to promote inquiry, not advocacy, when making decisions and having conversation. A high-quality inquiry-based decision-making process includes questions that are open-ended, that test the understanding of others, and that probes how team members arrive at certain decisions. And inquiry-based decision-making also solicits the view of everyone on the team, and it encourages challenges to even your own opinions. In contrast, advocacy-based decision-making and conversation is when people state their views without providing the necessary platform for those views to be challenged. And this can be seen as imposing. And what you want to do is encourage others to question your views. It results in better decision making. The next strategy to avoid conflict is to clearly define policies for resolving issues. This can be done right in the team charter. Furthermore, you want to be proactive about having complicated conversation about how teammates' behavior will make us feel. If something is said which offends you during a team meeting, you may want to actually talk to that teammate after the team meeting and discuss how it is the language made you feel, rather than allow hostile feelings towards that teammate fester over time. You want to avoid the conflict before it begins to simmer. Next, you want to resolve conflict once it occurs. You can do this by focusing on specific points of disagreements and not let specific points of disagreement be a characteristic of personality clashes. You don't want to have these character attacks. You want to focus on ideas rather than personalities. And lastly, to avoid conflict, you want to view conflict as an opportunity for growth. And I'll talk about this more in the next slide. The next key to building an effective team is to avoid what is called groupthink. Groupthink occurs when a team lets their desire to conform interfere with their ability to make sound decisions. So teams are so adverse to conflict that they are unwilling to challenge each other's ideas, when in fact challenging ideas can actually result in better ideas being developed. And to avoid groupthink, you want to make sure that all team members share their opinions during group meetings. Remember, Google found that their most high-performing teams were teams where each member of the team contributed equally during team meetings. Furthermore, groupthink occurs when team members are ill-informed. So to avoid gaps in information, you'll want to use the secondary research tab of the Digital Design Notebook to make available to all your teammates all the research that you have conducted for this project, so everyone can feel empowered during team decision-making processes with information. Next, you want to set official decision-making processes. How will you make decisions? How will you make decisions when no one can agree on a strategy moving forward? You can outline your decision-making process strategy in your team charter. And lastly, to avoid groupthink, you can conduct individual brainstorming before coming together to perform group brainstorming. When you each brainstorm individually, you create a wealth and diversity of ideas, and then when you come together, you can review those ideas. I would like to encourage teams to conduct their brainstorming individually before coming together as a group to share their ideas. This can help avoid groupthink. So groups of scholars are actually researching what it is that makes teams successful. So in 2015, there was a large study with nearly 700 people where each of these people were placed in teams of 2 or 5. And these teams conducted a bunch of tasks and were measured on how well they conducted these tasks. These tasks include puzzles, negotiations, brainstormings, and other games. During the performance of these tasks, metrics were gathered by the researchers, such as the intellectual intelligence of members of the team, the social intelligence of the members of the team, the conversation metrics, as well as information about group diversity, and finally, how well each team conducted each task. In conclusion, what the researchers found were that the best indicators of team success were, first and foremost, how much social intelligence each team had. Remember, social intelligence is the ability to perceive, understand, and respect the feelings and viewpoints of others. And this was found to be the most important indicator of team success. Furthermore, the number of women in a group was also an indicator of how well teams achieved. The third indicator of team success was that team members contributed in conversation in equal amounts. We discussed that earlier. You want to make sure that each team member is contributing during team conversations and decision making, and you want to make sure that there's a culture whereby individuals' ideas can be challenged by anyone in the group in a respectful manner. And at the bottom of the list, the least important indicator of team success was actually what the average intellectual intelligence of the team was. So just because your team has a lot of very smart people is not necessarily a great indicator of how well your team will perform. What you want to do is make sure that you're developing a culture of high social intelligence where members of the team can feel comfortable sharing their opinions in a group setting without feeling attacked, rejected, or punished for sharing their ideas. The next key in building an effective team is to create a meaningful team purpose. What you and your team want to do when you're developing your team charter is to sit down and to develop a statement of purpose together as a group. And then later in the design process, you want to identify what the specific requirements of your product are and how can these requirements be measured and tested. The final key in building an effective team is to stay task-oriented. Teams that stay task-oriented set high performance standards. And when you allocate tasks to specific members of the team, that creates clarity and accountability. And it also provides the opportunity to give feedback for team members which conduct specific tasks. But there has to be a balance between allocating tasks and committing to an equal shared responsibility for determining the team strategy. Furthermore, in your team charter, you want to identify how it is that tasks are distributed. Are team members expected to volunteer to take on tasks, or are they nominated by the team? So these are some of the strategies that your team can employ to build an effective, high-performing team. Thank you.